Welcome. Today, we're going to be talking about the advantages of running your Oracle databases on the Oracle Database Appliance. With me, I'm Carlos Ortiz. With me here today is Paul Cien. Paul.
Hello, everyone.
So this is the agenda for today. First, we're going to cover what is the Oracle Database Appliance and why you should run the Oracle database on Oracle Database Appliance. Then after that, Paul is going to give you some details on some of the key features. And then we're going to do a quick demo. Then we're going to come back and talk about the typical use cases, some analyst reports that we want to share with you. And then some additional resources where you can go get more details. And then we're going to go into a Q&A. So first, let's talk about what is an Oracle Database Appliance. Databases are the most critical IT service. They are fundamental to running your applications, to run your business, typically mission critical applications. Therefore, why not run that database on the most optimized deployment or system that you can have access to? Typically, customers have a couple of options, right, to run their Oracle databases. Number one is they can build their own. They buy the components from multiple vendors, but there are some negative on doing this, right? Which is there is no unified management, there is no end-to-end support, and it is not optimized for database. The other option, you can get a converged or hyper-converged system, right? You get a little bit more integration, but the integration stops at the hypervisor. You still deal with multiple vendors, and at the end of the day, is not optimized for Oracle database. So today we're going to be covering Oracle Engineer systems, right? These are systems that are fully integrated on the software and hardware. They're purpose-built appliances configurations for simplicity and optimized to run the Oracle database, right? It comes with integration with the public cloud, and you deal with a single vendor. So the Oracle Database Appliance X8 family, you can see it over here. There are 3 models, and you can see on the X-axis capacity, as you move from left to right, the system capacity increases, and the Y-axis on performance, then performance is higher as you move on to the HA system. Notice that the HA is a 2-node with a shared external storage. The other 2 systems are single nodes, so you can run single instance databases. The HA can run rack in addition to single instance. And we wanted to show you this so you can get an idea that the Oracle Database Appliance has been improving since the first generation that was released in September 2011. On the right-hand side column, we just did a comparison of the X8 to the version 1 in September 2011. So you can get an idea how much improvement we've done over those categories that you see on the left-hand side. Our goal is to always get the best components that are going to deliver an optimized system to run databases for small and medium-sized businesses. So next, we're going to talk about why you should run Oracle database on the Oracle Database Appliance. When we first created the Oracle Database Appliance, our main goal was to deliver a system that could run the Oracle database better than in any competitive system in the small and medium-sized market. Oracle Database Appliance, as an Oracle Engineer system, provides a tighter integration for all the hardware and the software components, and it offers an optimized configuration to run your databases. The Oracle Database Appliance also provides virtualization, so you can run applications in the same system. The Oracle Database Appliance was designed and optimized by the Oracle Database Engineering team. The best practices are integrated into the configurations and the database deployments. Storage management, monitoring, your database lifecycle management, managing the system, it's all integrated in a simple to use way. High availability and disaster recovery is provided for both Enterprise Edition and standard edition databases. And it comes with built-in end-to-end security, data resiliency, and data protection. So on this slide, you can see some of the innovations that we have on the Oracle database on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, the Oracle Database Appliance innovations. Everyone in the market has access to the Oracle database innovations on the left-hand side, but on the right-hand side, you can only get in if you get an Oracle Database Appliance. Some examples are, if you need to implement a rack, right? The HA model can be deployed in 90 minutes or less, right? You can run applications in the same system. Database templates, when you create databases, you just specify the template that you want and it is optimized for performance. Another one that I want to talk about is the integrated data guard and backup to the cloud also, right? That's all integrated in a simple way to use. And we're going to give you more details about that, right? Capacity on demand licensing allows you to just manage the number of cores that you want to activate to control your licenses. Right? And so as you can see that the primary goal through this integration is to provide simplification to manage your Oracle databases, right? Many small and medium-sized customers don't have the same resources and expertise that large corporations have. So the SMB customers or small and medium customers can take advantage of a system like Oracle Database Appliance. So as you can see on the right-hand side, right, it is a single system that is delivered by Oracle. One database administrator can manage it. There are 4 patches that are provided, and these patches are for all the components in the system. And all of this means minimal maintenance and support for your team. So with all this, we're able to deliver the following value proposition, right? It is simple from the moment you deploy it to the life cycle management of your databases. It is optimized for Oracle database. It is optimized from the factory. And we're going to give you some examples in the next slides. It's affordable. It provides a low entry cost. It provides integrated capacity on demand licensing. And it provides end-to-end security. In the next section, Paul is going to give you a lot more details on the value proposition and other key features. Paul, take it away.
Okay, so let's look at the Oracle Database Appliance value proposition a little closer. Let's start with the simple, being simple. So what does that mean? So being simple is really about being simple to deploy the Oracle Database Appliance. Right? We can set up a system and begin loading data in less than 60 to 90 minutes, right, with the HA system. And we can do all the following, right? Configuring the storage network and the rack database itself. And also it's about being simple to patch, right? So every quarter we release a software to patch the whole stack, right? From the firmware to the operating system to the database. And we also simplify other functions of the database appliance, such as backup, such as disaster recovery. And then also about simplifying diagnostics, right? We can collect all the relevant information with just one command, right? This next value proposition about is optimized for the Oracle Database Appliance. So what does that mean? That means the Oracle Database Appliance is designed by the Oracle Database Group. So we know how to optimize running database on Oracle Database Appliance. So here are some examples, right? So let's just take a few. For example, we designed these database templates. So as you create a database, you use these templates so that Oracle Database is set up optimally to run on the Oracle Database Appliance. For example, we have cloud integration, right? So you can easily back up your database to the Oracle Cloud. Or we have all the best practices built in, right? Whether you're setting up a storage network, it's always going to be set up optimally to run Oracle Database Appliance. Let's look at the third value proposition, being affordable. Oracle Database Appliance being very affordable for our customers, right? There are actually a couple components to the affordability equation. One is the lowest cost entry price. Our single node Oracle Database Appliance is the lowest cost Oracle Engineer systems available. And then the other aspect is really about operational expenses, right? There's capital expenses and then there's operational expenses. And actually the operational expenses is a much bigger cost components or affordability for our customers. So here's an example, right? If you want to build your own, you have to acquire all the different components and put it together. It could take weeks. Whereas with the Oracle Database Appliance, you can set it up and running in less than a couple hours, right? 60 to 90 minutes. And that's a huge difference. And then that operational expenses, sometimes cost more than the hardware itself, right? So here, and we have some analysis here, and you can look at the key benefits. In terms of total cost of ownership, we can reduce 40%, right? Again, that comes into the operational expenses, right? Time is money, and DBA times are very valuable, right? And then also the other big equation for our customer is with the ODA, you can license only the cores you need. We have this capacity on demand licensing that's only available to Oracle Database Appliance and other engineer systems, right? On the bare metal, that you can activate only the cores you need for your workload, and then you can increase gradually as your needs increase. So we have some data that shows, it's 10 times faster to deploy Oracle Database Appliance than building your own infrastructure. And in terms of maintenance costs, is 20 times less. So that's the third value proposition, the affordability. And of course, security is also a key value proposition for us. By default, everything is designed to be secure. So it's optimized. We have a number of security scripts that let you scan the Oracle Database Appliance to make sure all the vulnerability is addressed. And Carlos, I think you want to.
One thing that I want to mention is that the standard Oracle Linux has over 5,000 RPMs, but in the Oracle Database Appliance, we only implement 1,132 to eliminate points of attack that others could take advantage of in the Oracle Database Appliance, right? So we only have this 1,132, which is more efficient.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? As you can see, some of these value propositions are interrelated, right? We keep it simple by installing only the RPMs we need, at the same time increase security. Just like earlier, we talked about being simple saves you time, and that also makes it more affordable. So these are all these value propositions actually has relationships, right? So here's another example. So thanks, Carlos. So let's look at some of the features now that are more in depth, right? So we have the ability to automate database backup. So you don't have to be an RMAN expert with Oracle Database Appliance. It's really point and click, right? You attach a backup policy to a database, then the backup starts automatically. So again, backup's a very critical function, and we make it simple for you within Database Appliance. And we're gonna talk about some of these functions in our demo, and we have also in-depth videos on some of these capabilities that we'll talk about later. Another integrated function is Oracle Data Guard. This is also very important. So Carlos, maybe you want to talk a little bit about this process.
Yes. So on the right-hand side, you can see what is the high-level process, right? It's number one is from the primary Oracle Database Appliance, you need to create a backup. And the upper arrow points to an external FRA on NFS or object store backup, and then it needs to be restored into the standby Oracle Database Appliance. But I want to highlight this right here in the middle, that you can also back up to the target ODA using ACFS and NFS and restore directly from the same appliance. That way you don't have to use an NFS or object store, right? And once that is done, then we only have a single command to just configure data guard, as you can see on the bottom CLI screen, right? Or a CLI configure data guard. You enter these 5 parameters that are listed here. And if you're okay with the default settings that are listed at the bottom, then you just go ahead and click yes and do the data guard. I mean, some of our customers have looked at this and they just told us, wow, this saves a lot of time. So it's really well integrated.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. So data guard is really important, all right? For any customers that cares about high availability, this is really the solution, right? Because these days, there are a lot of natural disasters, right? Your data center could go down because of, hurricanes or earthquakes or fires, right? So you always want to have a backup database somewhere else, right? Not only that, with data guard, it also allows you to do kind of almost zero downtime patching, right? You can patch your standby database to the latest, and then you can switch over and then do the primary. So again, so with our customers that really care about mission critical databases, right? We always say, set up a data guard, right? So this is also very important. And Oracle Database Appliance make data guard very easy to set up with two ODAs. Okay. And let's look at the virtualization technology that Oracle Database support, which is KVM now. And we also have this other function called CPU pools that also makes management of the CPU resources very efficient. So here are just example, right? And because KVM is a recognized hard partitioning technology, so we can also use KVM with database, what we call the database systems or DB systems. So we can also use that to control licensing costs on the virtualized platform. So here we have a couple examples. On the first example, we show you the bare metal scenario where you can use the CPU pool to control your resources. For example, on the right-hand side, you can see database 4. It's an important database. So we have a dedicated CPU pool for that database. Whereas on the top, we have a shared CPU pool for the 3 databases, database 1 through 3. So that's one scenario. But because it's bare metal, therefore you have to license all the cores that are enabled, right? In this case, even though we have some CPU pool reserved for applications, but you have to license all the cores that are enabled. Whereas in the situation number 2 on the below, there we also have a bunch of pools, all the cores are enabled, but you only need to license the cores used by the databases, right? In this case, even though you have 32 cores enabled, you just have to license 10 because those are the 10 cores used by the 3 databases in KVM. So it's a very good way of consolidating applications and database, yet at the same time control your license costs. Okay. And more recently, we introduced the multi-user access capability. So this is also very useful for many of our customers that want to enhance the security of the database appliance. So here you can create multiple users, and each user are only allowed to access to their resources, right? Whether that's database or database homes. So we have in-depth videos and demos of this capability. But so this is only also a very recent capability that we introduced. And then of course, we have our database clones, and this is very beneficial for test and development environments, right? So you can have multiple developers, and you can take quick snapshot of a database with what we call copy on write technology, right? So that we can snap any size database in less than 10 minutes, right? And so in this example, we have a terabyte database, but we want to give it to 3 developers. So we take a very quick snapshots of the database, and like I say, less than 10 minutes. And then each developer would think that they have their own terabyte database, but in reality, they're only using very minimal incremental storage for each of the copy of the database, right? So again, this is a built-in function within the Oracle Database Appliance. It's very useful for our developers. And then of course we have the hypercolumn compression that can reduce the amount of storage drastically, up to 10 or 15 times. And this is only available for Oracle engineered systems such as Exadata and ZFS. So Oracle Database Appliance also supports that. Then this last item I want to talk about is really about the patching process, right? We make the patching process much simpler, much safer. And so this is one of the big benefits for our customers that use Oracle Database Appliance is that we release a patch every 3 months, and that's all integrated and pre-tested by the Oracle QA. And that so the customer doesn't have to worry about, oh, if I patch the components, it's going to affect something else, right? So we patch, the firmware, patch the operating system and the database. Now, if you have your own infrastructure, anytime you apply a patch, you could break something else, right? So with Oracle Database Appliance, you're ensured that it's pre-tested by Oracle, so you don't have to worry about compatibility issues, right? So this is really a major benefit for our customer, and it's one of the main reasons customers purchase ODA is that they have peace of mind. They don't have to worry about patching their infrastructure. So at this point, we're going to the demonstration.
In this demo, we're going to show you the user interface for the Oracle Database Appliance. So this is the GUI, and we're logging in. And this is the home page. You can see some information about the Oracle Database Appliance and the database data, the disk group information at the bottom. Now, just clicking on the data, you can see the different databases, what is the use space and what is the free space. Now, clicking on the database tab at the top, you get a listing of all the databases that reside in the Oracle Database Appliance. The two at the bottom are for DB systems, which is databases running on KVM. Although you cannot take any action, you will need to log into that system. If you create a database, you can create a database clean or clone from a backup or from an existing database. So here we selected create a clean database. We give it a name. Here we chose use an existing home. You select the home that you wanted. No CDB. So here you can choose if it's the class of the database and the shape, how many cores and memory. The storage, ASM or ACFS, we use ACFS if you want to use clones. The mirror or high, which is 2 copies or 3 copies of the data. If you want a CPU pool, give it a password, select those other parameters. In this case, we chose no TDE. We click create, and you're gonna get a notification. And you click on it, and you can see, right, that the task is still running, database creation by RHP. So we're gonna come back to this in a couple of minutes. So here we are on the activity tab. So we go back to the database, and you can see here the database, but it's in status creating, the DB2, the one that we're creating. Now I click on database home storage. This is a default configuration created by the system. Now that we support database homes on ACFS storage, you can always change the capacity. Here we click on database homes. These are the database homes that exist in the appliance. This is a test system, so we have 2 of the same version. If you create a database home, you specify if you want an enterprise edition, SE edition, and also the database home version. Now, backup policy, what you see here are the default backup policies created by the system, but you can create other backup policies to then attach to a database. So here's how you create it, right? These are the 3 options. It can be internal or to an external FRA on an NFS storage or to object store. right? So, and you apply the compression and recovery window. We're not gonna create one here, just to show you the options. So the next tab on the upper portion is Object Store. You click on it. If you create one, here you will enter the credentials for your object store, the Oracle OCI object store, and then you can apply it to the policy as we saw before. So your backup can go to the cloud. The next tab is monitoring. So we'll give you different elements that you can monitor. Here is our test system only has one power supply. That's why you see that the red light on the power. But I'm gonna click on the storage, so you can see that on this system we only have 2 NVMe SSDs. And if you click on the memory, you are able to see every single DIMM plus other components. Right? If the security tab records changes on DB systems, CPU pools, so the database administrator can see what changed. Right? It's and also you can see on the left-hand side DBSAT reports. You can run this tooling from within the Oracle Database Appliance and trace file redaction, right? You can also click in there and turn it on so that when the system needs to send some records outside of the system, all confidential information is redacted, so no one can see that. So here is the pool. Now, on this tab, multi-user access, as Paul mentioned in his slide, right? It's we now support this. The systems, the users that use it here are created by default by the system, but you can create a new user. So here I clicked on create a new user. We're gonna say user 1, and the role today is that's the only one that is supported, right? The Oracle Database Appliance. And so we're gonna create it, refresh, and you can see the user 1 right there. Now, the other components of this multi-user access tab is the roles. These are the roles that can be used, some of them by the system. The only one that is supported today is the Oracle Database DB. For administration, these are all the different entitlements that can be attached to the roles and the different resources. So here you can attach a user to a resource if you want a database administrator to only access a specific database, for example. Now the tab activity, this one shows all the changes that are going on within the appliance. So here I'm gonna click on when we created the DB2, it should be done by now. And here you can see all the tasks that were done, right? This is page 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if you look at the time when it was created, 150, at the time that it finished, 1402, that's 202, it took about 12 minutes to create that database. Okay, so we go back to the database, there's the DB2, we click on it, and now you can see the different parameters for the database here. Now we go to the Diagnostics tab at the top. And before that, let me just quickly tell you that this database 2 was successful, but if for some reason it failed, then you want to go to the actions and collect the diagnostics. It'll give you a link, a path to the file. So when you call technical support, they're going to ask you for that file. That way they can look into what happened. And that file will show up in this diagnostic tab, which right now is empty, but here you will get access to that information. Okay, and now in the Diagnostics tab, you can see here on the left-hand side the log usage. This is a fairly new feature where you can see all the logs that are being used, what is the size, and you can also keep a cleanup policies. They don't grow too big. So here is the options that you can purge, different parameters, and they're going to show up in the cleanup jobs, which right now is empty, but we just want to show you that. Okay, so we're back at the appliance. Now we're gonna look at the left-hand side menus. You can see the compute instance. This is the application KVMs. So right here, we don't have anything, but we just wanted to show you the tabs. And we have a video on YouTube that we're gonna give you the link to where you can go and see how all this is done. I'm gonna click on the create a VM instance. That way you can see the different parameters that you're gonna need to enter, including here under source installation, the link to the operating system, and you specify vCPUs, memory, etc. Okay, now I jump to the DB systems on the left-hand side. We have two DB systems, and I'm gonna click on DBS1 to hear the different parameters. And at the bottom, you get this link, right? Remember that the DB system is the Oracle Database Appliance running on a KVM. So with this link, we log into that DB system right here, right? You can see the second tab on the browser. So we log into that DB system. Now we are inside the DB system, that's the user. If we click on database, this is the database. And now here, from here, you can have all this action. If you remember from the bare metal, you can only see that there's a database, but you cannot take any actions. Okay, so now I'm gonna click on the bare metal portion right here. We go back to the bare metal. You can also see the database information from here, right? So now I clicked on network, the network tab, right? What you see here is the default networks the system creates, but you can create some other ones. So here I clicked on create a virtual network. And these are the data that you need to enter, but I wanted to show you the type, the network type, because here you can specify if you're going to use it for backup, database, data guard, or management, and the Oracle Database Appliance manages all that. Okay. So next is the CPU pool. Just showing you that we created a pool 1. The other 2, when you see those numbers, those are generated by the system for the DB systems. Okay, so, but here you can create them and assign them to DB systems, KVMs, databases. And on the ASR, right, just wanted to show you quickly this window because it's important. If you already have a system and you're not connected to the ASR, go ahead and connect, because this automatically identifies issues in the system and opens service requests with support, and the service is much faster when this is turned on. Now, patch manager. So here you provide the bundle location for the patches that we give you. And then on the update service storage tab, so here you can see all the components that are updated by our patches. Right now, you can see that everything is up to date. But if you load a patch, it will show you the new versions. And there is also a cleanup option, right, to clean up the old patches. Now, I wanted to also show you this resources tab at the bottom. You can see the FAQ, frequently asked questions, the documentation. All that information is ships with the software. So you have access here from the machine, right? And there is also an external link. You can go from here. And last, I want to show you this button here, the help, because this is in context help. Depending on what screen, when you click on it, it'll give you a link to the FAQs that apply to the screen and also some links to the documentation. Okay, now we also wanted to show you the CLI. You have access to the CLI. So here we're already logged in, but we're going to describe the component. And you can see here the similar information to what we already showed you, right? What are the components, and they are up to date. There's a lot of commands that you get. And if you just do autocli-h, so here is a listing, some sample, right, of the commands that you get. So we're going to list the databases that are in the system. You can see the different parameters. And now I'm going to describe DB1, right? So you can just see all the parameters for that database. Also, I'm listing the database storage. So you can see the databases, how much storage they're using, how much is remains or is free. And here I'm gonna list the jobs that we've done in the appliance, and I'm gonna describe the DB2, right, which is the database that we created. So you can just see a listing of all the tasks that were done to create the database. Right, and here they are. So this is a quick demo of the user interface, the browser user interface, and the CLI. And now we're gonna go back to the typical uses and analyst reports.
Okay, so let's look at the typical deployments of Oracle Database Appliance and some of the recent analyst reports here. So Oracle Database Appliance has been in the marketplace for over 10 years now. And over this period of time, we have sold thousands, actually tens of thousands of systems. And we have many, many customers, big customers, small customers in all the vertical markets, financial services, higher education, manufacturing, and so forth. So we have a very diverse install base. And here are the list of typical use cases. You know, we primarily sell a lot of the HA system, which is basically a real application cluster or rack in a box. We also support, of course, single instance database systems. And then we have many customers consolidating their databases onto this platform, and then also integrating application and database in a solution in the box environment. A lot of DevOps type of environments. And then, of course, a lot of remote, departmental, or edge computing use cases. So we have two recent white papers we want to highlight. One is from IDC that talks about 7 use cases, right? And then you can see this really prove some of our points we talked about earlier, why you want to run Oracle databases on Oracle Database Appliance, right? All the benefits we talked about. And again, these are real customers with real data that shows the benefits of running Oracle database on Oracle Database Appliance. And this next one talks about the Oracle Database Appliance versus do-it-yourself x86 infrastructure. Again, they really prove what we talked about, how easy and how fast you can implement your Oracle database on Oracle Database Appliance. So again, this is also a third-party independent analyst report. So finally, we want to talk about some of the additional resources, right? So we have our product page on oracle.com. We also have a YouTube playlist of all the webcasts that we've done on the topic, in-depth technical topics of Oracle Database Appliance. And I'll do a quick demo when after this. We also have ODA blogs. You can go look at all the latest blogs on Oracle Database Appliance, technical information documentation. This last resource is very useful. It's an Oracle Database Appliance simulator. So, and this is available on our OCI marketplace. So you can sign up for a free OCI account and search for the ODA simulator, and it actually runs in a virtual machine, and the interface, the browser user interface, the command line interface are available to you to go through 4 or 5 different labs as if you have the Oracle Database Appliance with you. All you need is a free OCI account and then a web browser user interface. Then you can have the whole experience of running an Oracle Database Appliance. So let me quickly show you the YouTube playlist I talked about earlier. So this is, you can see the URL from the reference page. You come here and you can see we have an Oracle Database Appliance playlist, and we have all the recent releases, KVM demo, patching demo, reimage demos. So very in-depth, right? Each of these is like about 40 minutes to an hour. So again, so this is a really good resources to see step by step. So the demonstration with the Oracle Database Appliance. So at this point, I think we're ready for Q&A.